So my name's Dan. I'm one of the elders here. I'm part of the preaching team. Glad to be here this morning. Can we get that first slide up? You don't belong here. You're a fraud and a phony, and it's only a matter of time until they find you out. So, this is awkward. Imposter syndrome. This morning, it's the second time this weekend that I have to admit to being the wrong guy for the job. Yesterday, I preached at a Jesus People hippie camp out. Yeah, that was awkward. So, because I'm not a hippie, there haven't been hippies for centuries. My parents weren't even hippies. I just filled out an online form, and then next thing you know, there I was preaching at a Jesus hippie camp out. So, it's not the first time this weekend I've been the wrong guy for the job, but here I am anyway. So, this morning, we're saying that God makes people different. And we get this from Psalm 139, where it says, you created my inmost being, your eyes saw my unformed body, all the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. God is infinitely creative, and he has written a plan for each of our lives, and sometimes that plan is different for individuals and for families. For some families, for some individuals, that plan includes disability, whether it's physical, intellectual, special needs, conditions, disorders, or impairments, right? Even the words kind of make us feel awkward, right? But God makes people different. What makes human difference awkward is unfamiliarity, misinformation, discomfort, sometimes fear, sometimes misplaced value. And often, we equate difference with lack. We say, that's lacking something because it's different. Or we equate difference with bad, and we feel like we have to explain it or fix it. Well, this morning we're gonna talk about disability, and honestly, I feel the weight depicted in the series video, the weight of the man at the keyboard with the kind of his head in his hands, wondering what to say, how to say it, knowing full well that I've probably already said it wrong for someone, and I apologize for that. But like I said at the beginning, I'm an imposter. I'm the wrong guy for the conversation, because until recently, disability is largely not part of my experience. At least not in an up-close and personal way like it might be the case for someone who's listening here this morning. But last December, some things were brought to my attention here at the church, and I won't get into that here. You'll have to tune into the podcast to get the rest of the story. But last winter, Cam Cutzley, another one of our elders, brought a situation to the elders' attention that made us realize that our space might not be as accessible as we might like it to be. And so it made me realize that some of the friends that I would love for them to come to church, I've been praying for them to come to church, I've been inviting them to come to church, but they actually might not be able to come to our church because of mobility concerns and other special needs considerations. And this all kind of timed out right around the time that our new lead pastor started talking about becoming that one house. So suddenly I realized I didn't just have an accessibility problem, I had a gospel problem, because we can't be that one house if whole groups of people can't get in the house, or if the house doesn't accommodate at least some of their unique concerns or needs. So what I did was I started talking to some of our SCC families that are living day to day with disability. I started asking really awkward questions to get to know them and to start understanding their experience. This was probably more awkward for me than them, because this is not my experience. And so I started talking and just asking simple things. Am I even using the right word? Is disability the right word? And I forget who it was, but one of them said to me, there are no good words for this. So again, I was probably the most awkward one in the conversation. But so rather than me speaking for them this morning, I'm going to ask them to speak. So I've invited a couple families to share with us this morning, and I think that by listening and learning, we can better understand human difference, and we can better learn how to become that one house for the disabled community and those with special needs. And we're going to do it in a super awkward interview sort of format, and we're going to start start with the Miller family. So they're going to come up here. I'm going to grab a chair. We're going to move some stuff around. Give us a second, and then. But in the meantime, as they're coming up, you can welcome them up to the stage here. This would be more of like a marriage conference exercise, but you two are going to have to share the microphone. Oh, yeah. And you're going to have to. So. Yeah. All right. So we've talked about we've gone through this a couple of times, so it should be less awkward this time, right? But so I guess let's start by just telling us about your family. Tell us about yourselves and your kids, and go ahead.
Well, our story starts way back, well, not that far back, but in 1987, in October, we met at a church called Countryside Christian Church in Michigan City, Indiana. Yay. I was from LaPorte, that's he again. Greg was from Michigan City.
There's a story behind
that. We got married and started our life together on September 2nd of 1989 in Northwest Indiana. We bought our first house in September of 1992 in Couts, Indiana. We attended a Couts Christian church. We helped lead worship for 9 years there. Greg was an elder for 5 years, from 98 to 2002, so we thought, this is where we're going to stay for the rest of our lives. God had other plans. Boy, did he. In July 3rd of 1997, Whitney was born in Valparaiso, Indiana. Then on January 21st of 2000, Derek was born in Valparaiso, Indiana also. And that's about 7 miles from where we lived in Couts. In August of 2002, we moved, this is the change, to Lincoln, Illinois, so that Greg could go to Lincoln Christian College and Seminary in Lincoln, Illinois. In September of 2002, Derek, at 2.5, was having trouble adjusting in the Sunday school classes of about 20 toddlers. He was used to 2 or 3 toddlers in a class. He would hide under the tables. He would get on, and he didn't know how to open up doors yet, because of course we didn't teach him at that age. But he'd get on his back. He's very smart. Get on his back and kick at the door. He was so frustrated. He wanted to get out of that place. It was too many people. But he was fine when we dropped him off. But his anxiety, which we did not know he had at the time, could kick in shortly after we left him. But Lord and behold, God did provide us a minister's wife that also had a special needs child. And she was able to get us information to get Derek tested. At this time, we had no idea what was wrong with him. We thought the big change from moving from a 3-bedroom house to a 2-bedroom apartment was the issue.
We were finally able to get the testing done in spring of 2003, about 6 months after arriving in Lincoln. He was diagnosed as having autism spectrum disorder, which took 6 more months to get that diagnosis. In April 2004, Derek attended his first early childhood class for special needs children of preschool age. In May of 2005, I graduated with a Master's of Divinity degree from Lincoln Christian Seminary. In June 2006 was our first church in Table Grove, Illinois. We were there for 8 months, and in February of 2007, God gave us a new opportunity here in Sparta. In February of 2007, both Whitney and Derek attended the Sparta area schools. Derek was put in classes for high-functioning special needs children. They're called MySci classes. Derek did well through his 4th grade year, but 5th grade was a bit of a challenge with teachers that didn't exactly understand Derek and a principal that didn't either.
In May of 2012, we were given the opportunity to place Derek in a class of just ASD students. So then he attended the Kennewick Hills High School and Middle School. He attended there from 6th grade to 12th grade. In May of 2016, Whitney graduated Sparta in the top 10 of her class. She then attended Alma College in Alma, Michigan. She graduated from there in 2020 with Sigma Cum Laude honors with a double major in New Media Studies and Graphic Design. In May of 2019, Derek graduated from Kennewick Hills and went into the RITS program, which is Region 1 Transition Program. Then in August of 2023, it was changed to Empire U program through the Kent Intermediate District known as Kent ISD.
So one of the things that I just want to highlight, just hearing your story, is your story sounds a lot like ours. You just met each other, fell in love, right? You did?
Oh, yeah,
You did. You
I
did.
hope so.
You did. That was the right answer. Yeah. But it sounds like all of our stories. You went to school. You went to work, and then somewhere in there, God had a different plan, and then
Yeah,
brings you
yeah.
here.
I mean, our story is like any other family possibly here in the church, except God put a special person in our life in the person of Derek.
And how old's Derek?
Derek is 25.
25. Okay.
Yeah, I hope I can remember that because he was born in 2000.
That should make it easy. Yeah. That's yep. Okay. All right. So now much of your experience. I mean, you've been worship leaders. You've been elders. You've been pastors of small church. So much of your experience surrounds is in the church. So I want to ask, in your experience, what has the church gotten right?
Well, I'll point out what SCC, well, it started out as Sparta Baptist, but
Oh, yeah.
we had the name change. What has been done correctly or helped us here is that this church has actually accepted my son as part of not only my family, but the church family as a whole.
That's a distinct difference there to be accepted into the into the family as a whole. So that sounds like that hasn't always been the case. So before we get into that, because I'm going to ask, what did the church get wrong? And that's where it's going to get awkward, right? But I mean, you have a specific part of what SCC got right for your family in that specifically in the kids ministry. You had some help there.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, when we first got here, Derek was roughly 16, and so Ryan Ruth was the youth director at the time, and he actually opened up the teen youth Sunday school class to Derek, and they pretty much took him in, not just Ryan as the director, but the kids as well. They took Derek in, they talked to him, they tried to incorporate him into their worship and just engage him as one of them, as part of their group.
Even the adults.
That's pretty awesome.
And the adults were just as inviting as well.
That's fantastic. All right, now here's the awkward part. Here's the hard part. In your experience, what has the church gotten wrong, or where have we missed?
Okay, so this is me speaking as a sole lead pastor of a very small church. In fact, the churches that I pastored were smaller than SEC. These churches would accept my wife, my daughter, and myself, but they kind of kept Derek at an arm's length. They did not want to deal with him.
Like he had the plague.
So,
Like he had the plague.
yes, yes, I mean, they thought he had something that was quite contagious, and actually it's not. It's just, it's something that God gave him and that we have dealt with since his birth.
So what could, go ahead. Go ahead,
Oh,
what were you
okay.
going to say?
Yeah. Well, more times than not, I've been told that I can make my son normal. So, yeah. If anyone knows how to make Derek normal, I'd like to know, really, because, you know, I just as well as anybody else would like him to be normal, but I'm not God.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry that people have asked you that. That's hard. So, what could the church do better?
Well, in our case, and SEC has been a good example of this, is to be more accepting and interacting with the family as a whole. I mean, Derek is part of our family, and we want to see him included in, you know, the things we do. And a lot of places, they want, well, you know, you and Brenda are okay, but Derek can be left behind. And that just, as a parent, that just doesn't set well.
I mean, as a friend of yours, that doesn't set well with me either. I don't think that sets well with anyone. That's horrible. But I mean, what a incredible distinction is that you know, SCC welcomed you as a family, and you know, that's great. So, and Brenda, I think this is your turn, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Right. Okay, so as a family with special needs, what is one thing that you'd like to say to the church?
Well,
Or a couple things. It could be a couple.
you guys have all gone down the right path with Derek. You've included him, treated him like everybody else. We just need to continue doing those things like engaging, inviting them to activities of the church, and making them feel welcome. And that's very easy. It's saying hello each week, giving them a smile, a fist bump, or an elbow bump. They may not talk back to, when you say hi, they may not recognize you, but they hear you. And the more you do it every week, they get to know you. And so it's so important. Just a smile will light up their day. And if you think it's only a smile, but it means a lot.
So how can SCC be that one house for families with disabilities?
So if SEC wants to be that one house, we need to be more accepting to others who aren't exactly like us. We have to think about how Jesus was very accepting to everyone he met. From the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman at the well, to he met Legion, he met countless other people, and he accepted them as they were. Most importantly, we don't want to make the parents or the caregiver of that individual feel like they are a burden to this church.
Is there anything else? Any final?
Yeah, one more thing. Our services could get noisy at times, but that's not a bad thing, because that's how some of these individuals with disabilities express themselves. I just wanted to say that.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you two being here. Your story is incredible. Thanks for sharing it. I'm so sorry for the painful parts. I think on behalf of SEC, we're glad you're here, and appreciate you being here. Thank you. Let's thank them for doing that. Our next guest is going to make his way up here, and as he's making his way up here, I want to I want to give us some awkward statistics. The greater Grand Rapids area's population is close to 800,000. And according to local records, 7.2% of people have some moderate to profound special needs. This means potentially that about 57,600 people are largely missing out in the life of the church. And that number doesn't include family or caretakers. That's just the individuals with the special needs. Family and caretakers have their own unique needs and concerns and experiences that often also get overlooked by the church. Another statistic, 2022 data tells us that 1 in 31 children in the U.S. are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, and that's compared to 1 in 36 in 2020. So the numbers are rising for a variety of reasons, such as increased awareness, better screening tools, better access to diagnostics. And that number, I've been told, is actually probably higher because we're only talking about diagnosed cases, not undetected cases or cases that seem minor or mild. So that's just diagnosed ones. But both sets of numbers reflect people who are different and have different needs and concerns when it comes to things like church attendance, traditional Sunday school class formats, attention spans and capacity for the sermon, sensory capacity for light and sound, and the loud worship sort of stuff, and also accessibility needs. God makes people different. And the question that we're asking is, how can we be that one house for this largely unreached community? That's 7.2% of the population. Just in our area, like I said, almost 58,000 people that are largely unreached. So we're going to continue our awkward interview format. We have Jake up here with us. Jake is, well, you're like our artist in residence, right? You got some kind of fancy title you're always bragging about on the podcast.
Yeah, some kind of creative thing. I don't know.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Jake.
Oh, well, I'm Jake. I've been coming here.
That's a good start.
Yeah,
That's a good start.
I've been coming here for about 20 years. I have cerebral palsy, but it's a little bit weird because as people we like to categorize, people, and you can't, it's harder to do that with me because I have a very visible disability. It's not a thing that I can hide. So you want to put me into the category with people with cerebral palsy. Well, you can't do that because I have a very mild case. I don't have any of the mental acuity issues that standard cases of people with cerebral palsy have.
Okay. And that's one thing I think it's important to highlight is we're definitely not making any blanket statements or category statements today. Every individual is unique and different because that's how God makes us. So I appreciate you sharing that. That's an important thing to keep in mind is everybody's got their own story. That's why it's so important to listen and learn from each other. Next question. You want to move on? You want to? I mean, I want to know more about you.
More about me? Oh, shoot.
Or we can go to the next question.
Yeah, we can go to the next question.
All right. Now you can tell how this podcast is going to go that I'm going to be on coming up. It's going to be awkward, but that's our theme. So that's our theme.
At least we'll have a camera between us and them.
Right. And we can edit the really awkward stuff.
Yeah.
But, so Jake, in your experience, and you've been on staff here at SCC for quite a long time too, so that's gonna kind of color your experience a little bit too. But in your experience, big picture and maybe SCC specific, what has the church gotten right?
Oh man, I didn't even think about the church outside of this place.
Well, we can just think about here then too. We can talk about the rest of them later.
Yeah, just really quickly, the church outside this place is largely unaccepting, I think, of people with disabilities, specifically disabilities that they can see. Again, I don't like to measure the two against each other, ones that you can see, like disabilities. I don't don't really know if it's a disability, but like people that struggle with anxiety and people that struggle with dyslexia, like you can't see those people, like the disability of those people, they just kind of struggle there. But if you can see it, largely the church at large is bad at othering them. But in my time here, specifically, whether it's Ben and I paddling a canoe headlong into a drainage pipe, or it's Ben Scheckler scooping me up like a Barbie doll off of the stage when I fell during a service and literally placing me at my base.
Well, that's awkward.
Oh yeah, ask Ben, he was praying at the time. Or it's Nate telling me that we're going to start a staff meeting an hour before it happens just so I have enough time to get there. Or Steve and I making a video of him literally pointing and laughing at me as I fall over my base. Largely,
Did you do that for a church reason, or was that just...
That was for a church reason.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say, in that video, he was credited as Steve Lister as Jaleel White. So we have our own issues there.
Yeah, sounds like it. One of these days, we'll have to open up the vaults on some of those old videos.
Yeah, we'll start running a classic series.
Right, classics. Right.
Largely, I have never felt othered in this church, specifically about my disability. I think as a church, we're very, very good and very well attuned to the fact that people are different, but that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's an important part of the conversation too, to celebrate the things we get right. This isn't all about, even though that's the next question I'm going to ask. This isn't all about what we're doing wrong or what we're getting wrong, but we get some stuff right, and that's pretty awesome.
I think it's probably more important that you get the people aspect right. Like what we're going to talk about with what's wrong, either can change or at least we can have an attitude of change towards it.
Okay. Well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
So what does the church get wrong?
So, again, I've been coming here 20 years. Please understand that I understand that this church is a building that was built and has gone through many changes over the past 170 years. There's a lot of this that I know that we can't change. There's a lot of this that I know that's just a circumstance. But stairs suck. And there are a lot of stinking stairs in this church. I have wandered up these stairs for 20 years. It has never gotten a single step easier. And I just wonder sometimes, I have days where my cerebral palsy is worse than others. And in those days when I'm tired and when I'm hurting and whatever, I wonder how many people have not, over the years, have not been able to come to this church because they walk in and my kid can't do that. How many kids have not been able to go to a youth event because it's all downstairs? How many people, how many Billy Joels have we not trained because they've not been able to get up on the stage? How many talents have we missed out on?
Yeah, and these are important questions to consider, and there's no easy answer. And to be fair, Jake is not complaining about this. I brought it up. I don't think you would have brought it up otherwise.
No, I don't. So, I think largely people with disabilities, one, they're used to it, and two, it's just kind of like, I don't want to be a burden. Like
what Greg said, yeah. So I want you to react to a quote. This is your quote.
Oh, my quote?
Yes.
No.
I'm quoting you, and
that's dangerous.
Yeah. Curbs are a challenge.
Oh yeah, curbs suck.
Tell us about your church parking lot experience.
Well, this is another thing I'm torn about because I met a person who became my best man in my wedding in this parking lot during one of the most stupid times to walk in this parking lot. We all know that it's basically an ice rink out there. We all know that is partially because of the parking lot. We also know that it's partially because of the way snow works. But I wonder sometimes when we reach a point where we got to say that's not good enough anymore. That's not a good enough reason. Like when the snow starts to melt and comes off the roof and comes down that spout that's out there, it makes I don't even, Mount Everest to me is what it makes. And like, you know, you think about people in any sort of wheelchair or any sort of mobility problems, they can't get to that ramp that's there. And that ramp is now nice. It never used to be. We've done a lot of work to make that nice, but you can't get to it now because that's, like, when is it not good enough to just say that's how the building is? You know?
And these are hard questions because sometimes, and you already pointed this out, you're aware of that. Sometimes that is just how things are.
It's just how it is. And again,
And,
I'm not blaming anyone for this. It's just how it is.
Yeah. So what can and you've already touched on this, but specifically, what continuing, what could the church do better?
What could the church do better? It feels a little self-serving to say this, but also it's, you know, the church that I go to. I think what I would say to people is the same thing I would say to a random person that would walk up to me in the street or in a mire somewhere and ask me, what can I do to help you? I think the first thing I would say is that it doesn't help me for someone to tell me that they don't see my disability. It does not help me. In fact, my disability is a part of me. It is an undeniable part of me. And it is a gift from God. So if you say to me that you don't see it, you are effectively saying to me, or at least what I hear and feel, is that you do not see me, at least entirely.
Wow.
The second thing I would say, and what I would love for us to not focus on, but just take the time to do as a church, because it does take extra time, and I realize that, is use, and it's also a thing that I can't blame you for, because it's not even something I learned about until I was 24 or whatever. Using person-first language. So person-first language is where you take the emphasis off of the descriptor of the person and put it on the person, obviously first. So instead of saying someone is a disabled person, you say that person has a disability, or that person, you know, people with disabilities. If you're referring to like a community or something, you don't say the disabled community, you say a community of people with disabilities. Okay. Putting the emphasis on the individual first takes the definition off of it. It gives them some moniker of ownership of what they struggle with. And that, I think, at least in my journey, has helped me to realize that my disability is a gift from God. It does have value. Even though it's something that I struggle with, it's something that I have value in. And I think if we can do that for other people, the doors will open.
Yeah. That's, I mean, just hearing you say that, I'm looking back through my notes going, boy, I already blew that one a couple of times today. But I think the thing is like, it's just like listening and learning, right? You don't know what you don't know, and once you know it, you gotta do something about it. You gotta know better, do better. I heard someone say recently, you know, just be gracious towards each other and listen and learn.
And again, I think it's a thing where, you know, if you say, "Oh, Jake, you're disabled," I'm not gonna stop you. I'm gonna probably say, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna correct you.
Yeah, it's like you're not surprised, right?
No,
it's awkward for it's awkward for me, not you. I mean, you're well aware. It's me that's gotta listen and learn. So, okay, and maybe you've already said that, but the next question on my list, as an individual with special needs, what is one thing that you'd like to say to the church? Like, now's your chance. Maybe you've already said it, and that's okay too.
You mean, how can we become that one house?
I mean, that, well, okay, that's the last year.
Is that what you said? I think that's what you texted me.
Well, okay.
Okay.
We can skip to that question. Okay, how can SCC be that one house for individuals with disabilities? And you can't say it makes us more attractive.
No. They get their chance to say it. I get mine.
You're gonna take that chance. Okay. All right.
All right. I'm actually going to read this because I don't remember it well. I think that if we make ourselves the type of people that is willing to take the time to use person-first language, to watch where we're parking, to decide that we need to do better about like the way the spots are laid out in our parking lot or how the parking lot is constructed. I think if we take the time to make people feel like they are defined by the love of God and not the physical attributes that they have or any sort of attribute that they have for that matter, I think it makes us more attractive. I think it, and I think it shows the outside world that we are living out what we are called to live out. Because if you're not doing that, you're not reflecting the love of Jesus, for sure.
Okay. Anything else? Any final thoughts?
No.
All right. Tune into the podcast for the rest of this conversation. That'll be coming up in a few weeks, I think. So, all right, let's thank Jake for being here. Grab that. You need that? So I want to draw your attention to the bulletin and to some recommended resources on the back of that. There's one book I highly recommend on there called Disability and the Church by Pastor Lamar Hardwick. He's a pastor who was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder when he was 36 years old, and he was already the pastor of a large congregation. So his story is pretty incredible about how to navigate those challenges. If you're not a reader, he did an interview on the Theology in the Raw podcast with Preston Sprinkle. You know, if reading's not your thing, definitely check out that podcast. It was pretty insightful. So the other book on there is a book called Small Talk, and this was recommended to me by Lisa, and Jake has read it as well. Now, this book's not a Christian book, and there's some language in there. So just kind of a warning there. There's some very useful, very insightful pieces to the conversation in that book. You know, kind of like how Ben wouldn't kind of wholesale recommend Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I can't do the same with that book, but there's some great stuff in there about a couple, a family, how they learned to care for each other when one of them was diagnosed with a neurological disorder. So check those books out, take advantage of those. Next up, we have an awkward video for you. So we're gonna roll that, and then we'll wrap up.
The family restroom is actually big enough that I think that even somebody in a power chair could use that room with a walker, wheelchair, cane, very accessible. Parking is not very good for accessibility. Even though we're landlocked, we should address the parking, make a van accessible parking place. Maybe block off one of the areas to make it more wheelchair accessible. Last week, I parked in that far handicap spot because it's got that miniature spot, and I was like, oh, I can park here, no one will squeeze in here. They did, and I had to call Mark and go, hey Mark, can you come move my car for me, because I can't get in, because they were like that far. When everyone's standing out front, that aisleway gets blocked off, and I'm like, and then everyone's talking, and if you get somebody older like Donna Lister, her trying to say, excuse me, her voice is so quiet, nobody hears her. And I was like, you know, that's actually kind of a twofold thing, because not only for accessibility, but from a safety team viewpoint, you can't get through and you need to get through, that's bad.
All right, so got one last slide for you to take a look at. Appreciate Justin doing that video for us. So 27 3/8. I want you to write that number down, and the worship team can come up. We're going to wrap up here real quick. I want you to write that number down or take a picture of the slide, 27 3/8. That's how wide an average wheelchair is. That's how much room average wheelchair needs to get through an aisleway, through a doorway, or into a seating area, or into a vehicle. I just want us to use that number as an exercise in awareness. Just be aware that God makes people different. Again, the people I've interviewed, nobody's complaining about this stuff. This is all stuff I brought up, so this is my fault that I made this awkward for everybody. And I apologize to the property team too, because they probably are getting a little tired of me. Hey, I got a question for you. But just use that number to be aware that God makes people different, and people experience the world different than I do. So SCC, here's the awkward part as we close out. And I want you to think big picture with me, because each individual, each family has unique needs. We're not making any blanket statements or anything like that. And I also don't want us to get overwhelmed with every detail specific to a single circumstance. So we have to think big about this. And this is what I love about Justin's video a minute ago. What if families with special needs were as excited about every room in our building as Justin was about that family restroom, right? What if we were excited about every room in here? What if families with special needs weren't just invited, but included, like the Millers talked about, included in worship, included in class, included in the main service, included in the kids' ministry? What if somebody with mobility concerns could pick where they wanted to sit or which class they go to? Literally, I started my engagement hour in the fireside class for individuals who couldn't go downstairs. What if they could pick to go to somebody's class besides mine? They might not even like me as a teacher, but they show up because they don't get the choice. Just what if, right? Again, think big picture. Think big picture. What if individuals with sensory concerns had a place they could go and have a break once they've reached their limit? One of the stories that Pastor Lamar Hardwick tells in his book is he's a pastor, and with his ASD, he knows he has about 2.5 hours of capacity, so he has to time it very well. So as a pastor of a large church, sometimes he has to sit somewhere else besides the main auditorium for the worship service because he knows the clock's ticking for his sensory capacity. But what if we had a place that individuals could go and have a break once they've reached their limits? I spoke with some families with hearing impairment. So again, a specific circumstance, but let's keep thinking big here. So some of the families said I was too quiet, which I am, and that's awkward. I apologize. Another individual said the music was too loud, but they love it when we do the traditional hymns, right? So that's a win, right? Philippians 2:4 tells us, not looking to your own interests, but each of you look to the interests of others. And see, doing the traditional hymns, the quieter worship, that's the kind of creative thinking that's going to make this church even more awesome. And apply that thinking across the board, putting others' interests and needs ahead of our own. I was talking to another family, trying to get an idea about current options and technology for hearing aids, and one of them asked me, "Isn't that really expensive?" And I said, "Well, let someone else tell us that. We'll just ask the questions." And he kind of liked that I said that. So I put it out to the property team and the tech guys, and they looked into it. And you know what? Here's the awkward part. Turns out it's expensive. But it's not as expensive as you think, and it's not expensive for all of us. It might be too expensive for me or for the family, but it's not too expensive for all of us. So, one of the things that makes difference awkward is misplaced value. So what if I said the kids' ministry was too expensive? Now, you'd boo me and throw hymnals at me, right? You'd boo me right off the stage. Rightfully so. I would deserve that for saying that. But let's get awkward. Let's keep thinking big picture. It sounds pretty awkward when I say kids' ministry is too expensive. How does it sound when I say a chairlift is too expensive? A sensory room is too expensive. Hearing aids are too expensive. A wheelchair ramp is too expensive. It's awkward, isn't it? 1 Corinthians 12:21 says we can't say to another part of the body, I don't need you. And it can sometimes feel like we're saying that. But here's the awkward thing. Another one, because I keep adding to the list of awkward things. We're going to run into limits. We're going to run into practical limits, financial limits, structural limits of what we can do to accommodate needs. But let's keep asking. Let's keep listening. Let's keep learning from each other how we can be that one house for everyone. So I'm going to close the same way I closed the hippie festival yesterday. The Bible, because I was under a revival tent, so I really had to go for it. So the Bible tells us that one of these days there's going to be a banquet. And here's what I said to the hippies. This doesn't apply to anybody here today. But here's what I said to the hippies. Matthew 22:10 tells us that the king is going to invite all kinds of freaks and weirdos and hippies, the good as well as the bad. That's what Matthew 22:10 says. That was for the hippies, not anybody here. This is for us today. Luke 14:21 tells us that also the needy and the vulnerable are invited. The poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame, they all get invited too. And they're going to respond. They're going to show up, and they're going to fill the banquet hall. The banquet hall is going to be filled with all kinds of people, every tongue, tribe, and nation, the book of Revelation tells us. The prophet Joel tells us that in the last days, that God is going to pour his Spirit out on all flesh. Flesh that looks like mine and flesh that doesn't. Able bodies and disabled bodies. People I understand and people I don't understand. And they're going to fill the banquet hall and take every seat at the table around Jesus, and he's going to welcome them excitedly. So let's talk about being that one house. Being that one house isn't picking who gets to sit at the table with Jesus. That's already been decided. Whosoever will, all who call on the name of the Lord will be at the banquet. Being that one house starts when we start to make room at the table. Our job is to prepare the banquet hall. I was talking about this message with someone last Friday, and they asked an important question that resonated with me, and I'm going to close with that question. Are we ready for this? Are we ready to be that one house?